Let's do this. I love this. Welcome to the Bear Facts on Guns, where host Derek Baer and his guests are locked and loaded to educate, inspire, and answer your questions about firearms. Tonight, Ground Zero? Ready. Aim. Derek.
Oh, welcome back, everyone. How was your week, buddy?
Hey, it was good. And look at that, folks.
Oh,
what you're seeing there is the brand new 21.6 The Net, brand new. I know last week we said it would go live somewhere in the middle of the night. It did. Yes, so there it is, Derek. There's your page right there on the interweb. And we've got links not only to Facebook with the Bear Facts on Guns. We've got it on bearfactsonguns.com for your email. We've got YouTube. We've got and look at our good friends at Gold Shield today.
Ooh, boy.
And hang on, because I think we got to adjust that web link there. But okay. Check us out, 216thenet.com. That's the new look.
The website's gorgeous. You guys did an amazing job.
Jen did an amazing job.
Jen did do an amazing job. Tech Jen out there. So good job out there. And really happy to have a website that has the show on there. So it's easy click. So jump on Facebook or jump on the website, 216thenet.com.
Listen live.
Yeah, you can. It's a listen live button on there, which is really cool. You just click and you can listen to it all the time. I leave it in my office all day long, actually. I have it sitting on the one of my screens, and I just have it in the background, listening away, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I know that show. I'm like, oh, I jump on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I can comment. Yeah, so I'm an avid watcher and listener as well. So Kiki, welcome. Hi. She's at the running around today, so welcome and awesome. So a couple things. Number one, I had a scary thing happen to me yesterday coming to work. So I got to work, and for those of you that don't know,
gambled on a fart.
I can't. You got to hold a fart in. Yeah. Hey, Jen, we were just commenting how amazing the new web page is. That's Jen. Great job with that. Tony spent out with Spena Homes jumped on too. Welcome back. And Kiki says, I have a sty. Oh, no, I'm sorry to hear that. We will talk about that after the show, obviously. I'm so sorry.
Don't want to discuss that necessarily.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, look at this medical problem.
That's right.
Herpes. No, just kidding. Inside joke, folks. Inside joke in the studio. Joke, yes. Yeah. It's a way to distract people, and it works really well.
It works.
So I'm driving to work yesterday, and the craziest thing that happened to me, what Jen just say?
She goes, man, yesterday I turned in right at balls, and today I took it at farts.
We're doing real good. Balls and farts.
Balls. Hey, we're right
I
there.
can say it. Balls and wieners. Balls and wieners.
Right. That was on Anything Goes.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. I do remember that episode. See, some of them stick in your head.
That's right.
So I'm driving to work, and I usually leave at 5:30 in the morning, and 6 o'clock in the morning, and drive into the office. And I get to the office, and I pull up the scanner, the police scanner, and it said there was a shooting on one of the roads that I drove into work that day, yesterday. And they had an accomplice that they were chasing after, and they never found him. So he got away. They're picking up shell casings across Lake Cook Road in Arlington Heights, 2 seconds away from where me and my wife live. And the funny thing is, if I shouldn't say funny, the sad thing is, and the scary thing for me, if I would have left 10, 15 minutes later than that, I probably would have been in the middle of that or at the tail end of it, which means I'm stuck in traffic for the next, because they shut the road down on there as well, which was pretty crazy to think about. So
yeah, Lake Cook's a busy road.
It is. Obviously somebody, I don't know. I don't know the situation. I'm following the news story closely because I just want to know if it's somebody that lives there or something, that a domestic dispute, or what the situation is, because we don't know. But it's not normal running around shooting out of cars or anything.
Well, not since the early 1600s or whatever it was, when there were
Yeah.
cowboys and Indians.
Running around shooting off.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I have to give a shout out to On Target today. I went to On Target just before the show for range, and I always feel better after going to range. I do.
Oh.
It's a great head clear. On Target's always phenomenal, super clean there, super friendly. I saw Gunny that we were on the show. He was here. So he was excited, and I saw a couple of the other workers in there that were doing obviously awesome jobs. They do apparel in there. I got to go buy a new shirt actually from them shortly. But yeah, awesome place. Felt really good. I brought my AR and I brought my shield, and I realized really quickly that it's been a little bit of a time since I've been to the range because I shot horrible. And it took me, I'd take a breather in the middle of it because I was getting irritated, and I'm like, no, I'm here to relax. And I just need to get this to focus. And, what I realized was I kept turning my hand every time I was shooting, anticipating the shot, because I was just trying to get relaxed and enjoy the range. And I was trying to get to that point of, I get that, dopamine release when you hit that bullseye, and I'm excited. So, there's processes and steps that go in there as well. And take a second to find out. And after that, it felt great. My AR shot amazing as normal. Every time I shoot my AR, I find a noise on it, though, that I don't like. So this time it was my trigger. Every time I click my trigger and I'd let go, I'd hear ping, ping. So I'd fire, boom, and then I'd let go and it'd go ping. I could feel it in my shoulder. And I'm like, I got to spring. I got to tear it apart and see what's going on inside. So thumbs not.
Well, looks like we know what you're doing this weekend.
Yeah, that's true. I installed my EV charger for my car last weekend. That was cool. So instead of taking 24 hours to charge my car, because that's how it happens, it charges it in an hour and a half.
Wow.
Now, at home, I can go charge anywhere, or I can charge for half an hour. But so that was really my big accomplishment. Kiki actually helped pull the wire for it. Most impressive. She was not happy about doing that, but she did it, and I appreciate it. So thanks, babe, as always. Let's get into a news story.
Yeah.
I sent you an article.
Yeah, you sent me an article earlier this week, and of course, our crack reporting staff grabbed it and ran with it. So, in the headline in ABC 7 News, said influx of guns is ground zero for violence at the end of a bloody summer in Chicago. Hey, look at there, Mac. How are you, man?
Hey, Mac. What's up, man? Oh, my name's Derek, and I got a frunk. Oh, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. They always make fun of my frunk because my car has a frunk. She said, pain in the ass, but worth it. Thanks you, honey. She did a great job, honestly. These wires were not small to pull. These were number 6 gauge wire. These were very thick.
So you put her to work?
I did. I did all the piping.
That's
she just had to pull the wire.
There.
It was some love.
Kiki, what did you do for you? That's what I want
to know. We can't talk about that in there.
So anyway.
Or maybe we can.
Anything goes on Tuesday. So Chicago... 1,000. Listen to this. Here's what the article read. 1,606 people were shot in a single 3-month summer period in Chicago. That's the population equivalent to many American small towns. Okay, so let's stop there. Many American small towns. I don't know too many towns that only have 1,600 people in them.
I do, but there's not many of them. And they're in a very...
Obviously there are, because it says there are.
Oh, because
right. What was... I know, 5,000, 3,000, 5,000.
Sure.
I mean, I'm from Iowa, where there's a lot of small towns.
Correct.
I mean, 1,600, I don't know.
But they make it seem like it's a common thing.
Yeah, right.
Like if you look at any Chicago suburb at all, right. I mean, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100,000. Yeah, I mean, like Rockford's 100,000 people in Rockford.
Yeah.
I just love how they spin this stuff and make it about, number one, they're making it about guns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The shootings.
And not a favorable one on guns.
No, not at all. Yeah. They're ripping it apart. So they're saying that it was a 12% increase from last year. Because last year they said it was, because right now, and here's where this gets difficult for me. The research that I could do on this and the time frame that I had, and know we're going to dig more into this. Yeah. We're going to really dig into this because we want to get to some factual stuff on here. So ABC 7 says 1,606 people. The next website, which is, what is number 5? What's 5? 5 is, it says 5 Chicago. Looks like, Oh man.
Yeah, it's probably NBC. Is that 5? Yeah.
It might be. It's got the one with the like. I don't know, dude.
Anyway,
I'm
Channel 5.
I don't watch the news.
Let's just say
often.
Channel 5.
Channel 5 news, whatever.
Yeah,
Channel
NBC.
5.
Max says NBC.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks, NBC. We know you watch NBC a lot back on there as well. So NBC reports the city has a record of 1,892 shootings through June 28th. I'm confused because number one, if we're talking about the same 3-month period and we have 2 different news broadcasting stations trying to amp the ratings up, which let's be honest is what's happening. 1,800 sounds a lot better than 1,600 when it comes to the amount of scare you want to put in people. The second part of this is that it says that this is through June 28th of this year and 12% higher than last year's 2020, which was 1,692, and 53% over 2019, which is 1,234.
Yeah.
So we have an increase. Okay. Has increase in car deaths happened every year? Are they going down?
I don't know
either. I don't have the information.
But here's the spin, right? So here's the interesting thing. And again, for the record, everybody out there listening, I don't own a gun.
Yep.
I do not own a gun.
Yep.
I mean, I do. I have this little orange sucker gun. I don't know. It's little pop sucker things that stick to your bald head. But anyway, these are numbers, and more significantly, Derek, lives that have become part of a grimly familiar dynamic in the city, and one that leaders in law enforcement and public office see as, quote unquote, unacceptable. Shit, right?
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. It's the first statement I've ever agreed with.
If it was just 1,600, that'd be acceptable. But we went to 1,606. It's not. On the other side of an especially bloody summer. And then here's the best. We talked a little bit about in the green room.
Yep.
Guns are at the center of it all.
That's literally what it says. It literally says that in the article. Guns are at the center of it.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if Fred, Mr. AR-15 is who I'm talking about. Fred AR-15, because I'm just going to give them names at this point because apparently they have souls and they're living and they think on their own. And
they're at the center of this.
I just don't understand why the concept of it is not. It's an agenda, right? So we're jumping into agenda parts of what we're trying to do and push onto that onto other people as well. The other part of this too. So last year was one of the deadliest in the city in decades with 775 killed. The sharp spike from the 500 homicides in 2019. All of this is a play on words. At the end of the day, people shouldn't be shooting other people unless it's justified.
Yeah.
In the ways of being harmful or being killed in protection. The second part of it, these are human lives that are losing, right? So we don't want that. Whether it's a knife or a gun or a car or a bomb or anything else or a hand grenade.
Or a grenade.
Yeah, because I have a hand grenade. You guys want to see my hand grenade? It is not loaded Facebook. It's completely out and there's no anything in there. It's basically a fake.
Maybe Facebook is unplugged now. Who knows?
Oh, perfect. We're done. Oh, that's true. We lost it for 4 hours and the world went mad.
Whoops, went cuckoo.
So where's the agenda lie with where these areas are? Where is this happening? Right. So we broke down the 5. Actually, we broke down a couple episodes ago the most 10 deadliest spots in Chicago based on 2020.
Yep.
And none of them were in areas that I thought they would be, surprisingly enough. Right. Some of being near St. Louis, some being at number one, what was it? Maywood. Yep. Being near St. Louis, places that I thought would be more crime-ridden aren't. Springfield was on there. In the capital of the state, that as well. What does Jen just say?
Kiki, is that the grenade I casually almost dropped off the workbench the other day?
Yes, it is.
That would be the same one.
Same one. It's been traveling the country with me as well. And there was a police officer standing outside the studio today as I pulled the hand grenade out of my car today. So that was great. And yeah, it's cool.
It is. So
there was a shooting right down the street.
Yep.
Remember?
Yep.
No information on it. It's gone off the planet.
It's gone.
So we don't know who did that, what caused it. We have no information on it as well.
Well, we know they got
one of them.
They got one of them.
But they don't have the rest of them.
Right.
And there's no story being told of what it is.
No, nothing. No follow-up.
So why?
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, George.
Hey, George. Welcome in.
Yeah. Well, and here's the interesting thing. We were on lockdown last year. We were on lockdown, right? In
Essentials
2020.
only.
And the influx of firearms into the hands of soon-to-be trigger pullers is ground zero for violence, says Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown, as he was being interviewed by CNN. It's violent people in possession of weapons. And then it says from June to August this year, 261 people were killed, 8 fewer than the same period in 2020. We're making progress.
8.
We're making progress.
But there's more. There's no lockdown this year.
Right. So if we were to go back and look, it looks like this time of year is always the gun statistic. Oh, we got to put something out on guns and how bad guns are.
That's how I feel with 4th of July, though, too. 4th of July is always like gun central. Well, this is going to be the most deadly 4th of July ever. That's supposed to be freedom. Like, what? Are you sending a memo out? Hey, guys, don't hold off on shootings until July 4th because we wanted to have the news that makes better on there as well.
Well, and here's what we talked about, too, and this is my opinion.
Yep.
This is my opinion. This influx of guns and gun violence might it have come from a certain office in Chicago,
sure,
maybe 15 or 20 years ago, that said, listen, if we could drop a bucket of guns off in a particular area, perhaps those people, violent people, would kind of take care of themselves.
Yep.
And so we started. And then all of a sudden, well, we needed to have a few more guns in there.
Yep.
And then more guns. But we didn't foresee 15 to 20 years out going, oh, geez, this is a bad thing. Yep. And I wish I had time this weekend. Maybe I'll do it this weekend to do a little investigative, reporting. But could you follow the money back, or follow the trail of guns back, or the trail of blood back to a certain office, and say, hey, this is how we think we don't want to put our men and women in blue at risk. If we can keep them in this area, we will take the casualties and the losses, and we can control it if it's in a certain area.
Real estate?
Yeah.
Follow real estate. At one point, your really high-end areas were crime-ridden areas.
Yeah.
And they were bought for really cheap by usually one or two investors that have ties to certain areas, right?
Or got contracts,
or subcontracts, or whatever that looks like, or city contracts, or whatever it comes down to, on there as well. So I don't know if you guys remember, there was a Chicago police officer that was killed in August. That was pretty sad for Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And it's a really direct portrayal of what's happening with the police department. And I'm just going to say this on record, since we're on the air and I care.
Yeah.
I feel for every police officer in the country right now.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for them.
It is. And listen, I have had my numerous run-ins with the law when it comes to driving.
Yeah.
I love to drive. I love to drive fast. And it's never been one of those areas that I'm never excited when I see a cop, right? So I'm happy they're there. I don't have issues, but you do your thing. I'm going to do my thing, and hopefully you don't catch me for speeding. That's where it stops, right? For me, everything else you guys do, I respect. The bigger part for me is, if you're a police officer right now, you do not have the support that you had 10 years ago at all. You don't have the band of brothers and sisters that stand behind you on corners when things get bad. The other scary part about this too, and then George, I'll jump onto your comment here in just a second after I make the statement. The other big part of this as well, we know where the crime-ridden areas are. Why are we not taking care of that? Why are we allowing these shootings to continue to happen and go from there? I'm curious what he's got to say. I didn't read it yet. So,
well, let's rip up here. Jen,
okay, cool.
Jen asks, hey, what do you do when a parent leaves a gun after they pass away? What's your options?
It's a good question, Jen. I actually don't know the answer to that, but I can definitely do the research and find out. I'm assuming that there's some paperwork trail that needs to be done and something that needs to be filed with a death certificate proving that the person's been
Passed on.
and then that would be relinquishing the power of attorney to be able to move the registration of that firearms to yourself. That would be next in kin for the registration, or if I could say legally, in terms of what I would think the process would go to. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And of course, George Chase says, "Hey, first time listener, first time chatter.
Welcome in, Chase.
Have you spoken about attempts to control straw purchases from neighboring states?"
So we haven't actually, and it's a good topic. So if you look at this officer that was killed, they traced the gun.
Officer French, I think, right?
Yes, Officer French. Yep. Actually, she was a rider too. She was a motorcycle rider, and actually a lot of people knew her in the riding community. Not very happy about it at all.
Yeah.
That we lost a rider, because riders are few and far behind, especially a female rider. It's not cool.
Pretty good rider.
I don't know if she is or not. I didn't have the pleasure to meet her. So a couple of my friends did, and she was cool. But the gun was originally purchased from
Indiana.
Yeah. And transferred up here. And the buyer lied on a gun purchase about it as well. So the interesting thing is the progression of that gun. Now, this is just one case, and this was obviously very, very publicized because of who it was, and that it was an officer, and with the gun violence in Chicago itself, just kind of adds to their agenda on there as well. But at the end of the day, we're not talking about the legal guns, half the time, 99% of the time, we're talking about the illegal guns in there. So, George, I'd like your input on it. So feel free to jump in there, chat, and ask a question or make a statement that you have, or a comment that you have.
So here's the interesting thing, right? Is that the western suburbs of Chicago and northern Indiana is where most of the crime guns tend to come from.
Yep.
And that's John Lausch, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, said West Fourth Sports in Gary, Indiana, is being sued by the city of Chicago, which alleges that the gun shop sold more than 850 recovered crime guns over a 7-year period. Mm-hmm. About 180 of them were sold to at least 40 people who were later charged with federal crimes in connections with these purchases. The complaint alleges that the gun shop, which is a little over 30 miles away from Chicago, ignored clear warning signs about the buyers. And of course, management of the gun shop had no comment.
Sure.
When asked.
I mean, that's their side of it as well. So George here says, seems to me like Illinois should be cracking down on Indiana and others. Yeah. So I just came from Tennessee. I could have legally purchased a firearm in Tennessee and drove it home to Chicago.
Yep.
I don't disagree with that, though.
Hey, buddy, come get your boy.
Man, we freaking love it. Those of you that do not follow TikTok and need to follow TikTok, there is a amazing guy that calls "Come Get Your Boy."
That's right.
R8 then.
R810.
R810.
That's it.
So it strikes a chord with me when it comes down to holding other people accountable at the same time. Gun purchases, it's a Second Amendment right. Chicago, I feel, number one, I'm grateful. I'm going to say this very candidly because there's two sides to this coin with me, and Uncle Pete will speak on the other half of the coin with me as he does, but I'm going to speak on what he did before. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I came from New York, so I couldn't have a pistol. I couldn't conceal carry without having a police officer sign off basically that they take responsibility for whatever I do, which no cop is ever going to do.
Right.
I'm thankful that I live in a state that's able to conceal carry because I feel always safer when I carry every day. I feel safer with my family. I feel safer in grocery stores. I feel safer for the rest of the people that I'm around. At the same time, I don't want to be tracked when it comes to what I'm buying, when it comes to firearms. I think there is, and I'm going to speak on behalf of myself, and maybe my gun guys are going to get upset at me about this. I don't see a legal reason why you need to own an RPG.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, personally, like, I don't know of the place that you can even fire that, nor is it safe, and nor do I properly know how to house it.
It's your right to have one.
I don't know that should be military grade equipment that is done. At the same time, and the flip coin to this, and where Uncle Pete will go into, the there's no infringement on the Second Amendment. Right? Shall not be infringed.
Right.
Or right to bear arms. Doesn't say what type of arms. Doesn't say any kind of thing on there. So we talked about last time about taking away that one freedom, right? So you take away one little thing and you can deal with it. Take away another little thing, you can deal with it. Take another away, another. I own a Tesla, and Mac's gonna jump on and make fun of me about it right away, because I talk about it all the time. Elon Musk just released today, because I'm actually in a program right now where I'm trying to get the full self-driving capabilities of the car. Okay, and you have to have a safety score, and that safety score literally tells you if you're safe enough to be allowed to have this beta program be released to you, which means that you can have literally autonomous driving, or mostly autonomous driving, in there as well. But you have to score a certain percentage. And right now it's 100%. Okay, I dropped like 8 points on the way here.
Oh.
So it's hard, because I mean, I'm at 93% right now for 5 days that I've been doing it. So I'm actually doing better than I thought I would do. But it's just one of those things where we keep taking, people pay 10 grand for this full self-driving, and now we're being restricted on it. So when do we keep allowing our freedoms to be taken away little by little before it's just gone completely? And which New York State has done
it already
in there as well.
Anyway, George Chase says, I'm not against gun ownership either, but it is disturbing to learn that someone can drive a few hours away and make a purchase and bring it back here. Now, but if you're talking about the straw sales, then let's just hold on there.
Cool.
I want you to know, right? These guys it's like money laundering. I'm not like, hey, yeah, buddy, why don't you go down there? Here's a couple $100. You go down and get me a gun.
Yep.
You're going to register it in your name. When you bring it back, I'm going to give you a couple $100 more.
Yep.
It isn't that way. These guns are moving through several hands. They're moving through several different channels, so that they can't be traced. Right. So it's not as easy as you or I, Derek, just going down and going, hey, yeah, I'm looking for, an AR-15 that you have filed away, the serial number on it, so that I can go shoot up in Chicago. It's where I'm from.
Yep.
And I've got cash to buy that.
Yep.
So I mean, one of the things that makes it difficult is there are trafficking schemes out there that involve many parties, or the guns do change hands legally, people, a number of times before they are actually transferred to the person who's going to use it improperly.
Yeah. So the NBC or the ABC part of this, we're not seeing truckloads of guns.
Yeah.
We're not seeing hundreds, 200, 300 guns in a crate that are ending up in someone's hands.
It's not Hollywood. It's not like, hey, let's bag this truck up down there in Indiana and we'll drive her up there.
And by the way, your gun store that sees you drive up, I need 300 guns.
Yeah.
I don't care what they are. I just need 300 guns. I'm pretty sure that I got cash. It smells a little funny, but I got cash.
That's right.
So that's not happening, right? So these straw purchases. So if they're going through multiple hands on there as well, I don't think I have a great answer for it. And I don't have the answers. The whole point of the show is to talk about these things and go through what it is. At the end of the day, is it done legally? If it's done legally, then we need to look at the legal system on why it's done and the way that it's looking at.
Well, yeah, to that point is, tell me what happens. What you sit in the Cook County jail for a few days, you get a $1,000 fine, and you can't pay anyway, so you're gonna go out and
public assistance, and they're gonna give you a public lawyer. The lawyer says, oh, okay, this is an easy case.
He bought it. Hey man, he bought it legally.
Yeah. What's her name? Fox is who's the state's attorney? Is that who it is?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know who it is. There's been a couple comments. So Northbrook Court just got robbed yesterday.
Yeah, state's attorney Fox.
Yeah, Fox. So Northbrook Court got robbed yesterday. The Louis Vuitton store, $66,000 worth of merchandise was taken out of that store. Yeah. 8 suspects walked into her, and there was a strategically placed video camera, which I still believe is an inside job on it as well. Sorry if you're that person listening to the show and was that person on the other end of it, but that's just how I feel. Because it was a beautiful camera shot of them running out the door with monster buttloads of Louis Vuitton bags.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd time this store has been hit. 3rd time. I worked retail for a long time. I have dealt with thieves my entire life. I have dealt with bad employees that are thieves. I have dealt with customers that are thieves.
Yeah.
The thing I've noticed over time is that it continually decriminalizes theft in retail stores. And then they wonder why brick and mortar is dying. You think that when you think that a store, a retail store, like a Lowe's or not Lowe's, yeah, Kim Fox. Thanks, George. She will not prosecute for certain things at all. So it's illegal.
Right.
And I can get a list of it, but there's been a couple cases where theft, petty theft, right? She will dismiss immediately.
Yeah.
Gone. It's not worth my time. It's not worth the state, anybody's time. It's not worth putting them in jail. COVID restrictions right now keeps the jails down. You're creating a lawless system. Okay?
Yeah.
And that lawless system has consequences. And those consequences are, for a place like Louis Vuitton, which is $66,000 that they just lost, they have a decision to make. Yeah. Either they're going to call their insurance company, reclaim the $66,000, hope that inventory numbers are correct for whoever the manager is over there. God bless whoever that is, because that sucks to deal with that stuff. I watch the store employees. They have a armed guard in that store. And I'm not knocking this armed guard at all, because honestly,
I wouldn't put my life in jeopardy either.
Not for a purse.
No.
I don't think these suspects were armed. It didn't say that they were. They didn't look like they were carrying weapons of any kind. And I don't think it's appropriate to go ahead and take someone's life over somebody who's petty theft or even whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with this guy. But you literally went into a store with an armed guard and stole $66,000 worth of purse, knowing that you were that confident to do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's so that's the whole thing, right? Is that these people just are not afraid of the consequences of when they're caught,
because there's no consequence to be afraid of.
Whatever happened now, George? I know your age, so I can talk with you about this. How do you know
George's age?
Yeah, George and I are buddies.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So he works for Liberty Mutual.
Hi, George.
So, there you go. So here's the deal: is this? What happened to the good old days where they would just rob the slow-moving trains going through Chicago? You'd go to Jewtown and get a fake Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's the problem. It's true, right? Or Nike Town. This is
Nike Town was
what happened, right?
Yep.
And fake Rolex, whatever, or it might have been real. You don't know, right? But here's the deal. What happened to those days? Well, here's what happened, right? We've got a breakdown in the way things are being shipped around America.
Sure.
So instead of robbing the slow-moving trains now, Prada is better, says Mary Catherine. Of course, tune in tomorrow morning at 6 for Mary Catherine's Power Playlist. But you know what I'm saying? So there in the good old days,
yep.
And I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go back when the Italian mafia ran the United States. Everything, there was a little more peace in the world,
because you were scared.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you stole from the mafia, you're dead.
You understood the hierarchy.
Correct.
Now we don't know the hierarchy.
I feel like, we've taken away the police power, right? We've defunded it because of I'm going to try and not make it sound this bad.
Yeah.
Because of a couple incidences with a couple bad eggs, we have now removed a whole department that is here to protect us.
Yeah. And
by the way, we are training these people to act and judge a certain way in police academies, right?
Yeah.
And based off of statistics that they see, because those statistics basically run. Well, the statistics say that we have continued gun violence in Chicago. Where that gun violence is coming from and how it plays out and how it got that way is what you have to look at from 10 to 15 years ago to watching that place decrepitly. You can't tell me that same area has been decrepit the whole time.
No.
And we talked about an apartment building, right? Because I didn't know this about Chicago.
Cabrini Green.
Cabrini Green. So tell me about Cabrini Green for our listeners out there.
So back in the day on the north side, right? If you're from the Chicagoland area, you knew Cabrini Green. Cabrini Green was a war zone. You did not. I mean, it was low to moderate income. 15-some thousand people lived there, so a little bit larger than a small town. Right? And this was and it was brutal. And you knew if you didn't belong there, you knew not to go there. And the police understood their position. I mean, it was like a violent village. And a lot of good people came from Cabrini Green. It's not everybody was bad.
Sure.
Understand that. But then they decided to. It was unlivable. The buildings were being condemned, unsafe, and so they moved people all over the Chicagoland area and suburbs, and into different housing. And of course, if you were a landlord, you were like, hey, and that's automatic income. So bring them here.
Simple. Right?
And we'll give you a new start in a suburb. And it was good. And it worked out well for a lot of people. Sure. It wasn't a bad idea, but at Cabrini Green, if you knew, you just knew.
Yep.
And it was a real thing. Now, the interesting thing is, Arn Duncan, if you don't know, is the co-founder of the anti-gun violence group. Are you ready for the name of this?
Shoot away.
Creating Real Economic Destiny.
Cool.
The anti-gun group, Creating Real Economic Destiny. Okay. Told CNN that it all started with the pandemic and then the George Floyd murder.
Okay.
And this is what Arn says.
Yep.
Those next 6 or 8 weeks after that were honestly probably the worst 6 or 8 weeks of my life.
Wow.
Now, Arn Duncan, if you don't know, is the former U.S. Education Secretary.
Wow.
So I'm guessing Arn is older than 23.
Probably. Yep.
We had a staff member killed. We had three of our young men killed. We had a 20-month-old baby of one of our men. He was killed. And it was just an extraordinarily dark time.
Wow.
Now, what that has to do, and that comes from the article, right?
It's insane.
What that has to do with this article? Yep. Nothing.
Nope. You just have to throw in the anti-gun guy. Like, you really do. Was Section 8.
Right.
Was Section 8. No. That's what George just said. Yes. Yeah. Cabrini Green was Section 8.
Yeah, there was a lot of government assistance in there.
Wow. I'm kind of speechless right now when it comes to, I don't know. A part of me wants to talk to this guy just to get it on there. The hardest part with people like that is they're so disconnected from like having a conversation. Number one, an actual conversation about what they're trying to say, because they're so stuck in the fact that they think that guns started during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, the statement says it all started with a pandemic. I'm sorry. What? Did you not remember when we first took over America that we were wearing, we had guns back then? I don't know what you're trying to say here. Right. Like, okay, you're wrong. It didn't all start. And then we talk about the George Floyd. The sad part is the Black Lives Matter movement, or the conversations around that kind of stuff. It's sad because I feel like it was used as a political ploy.
Yeah.
And now it's not talked about at all. And anybody dying in general is not obviously something great. To put an individual up on a pedestal and to be able to push that onto the rest of the world as the beacon of a start of a movement now has not been talked about at all since somebody just vandalized the monument that was produced. I'm confused, number one, because I believe in equal rights across the board, whether you're a male or a female or whatever ethnicity you are, or whatever gender that you choose, or whatever you want to, call it. That's your business, right? Yeah. When there's a movement that's happening, things like the right to vote for women, that women fought pretty hard to get and got. Why did it stop? Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just confused. I'm trying to get to the fact that I don't understand why we continue to let things happen and then we brush it off and move on to the next subject when the first subject wasn't even talked about.
One of our listeners says Cabrini Green was the mecca of fuck around and find out.
It's a good statement.
So true. All right.
That's
So
scary.
so here's the deal.
Yep.
If this is, and here's what I want to challenge people to try to open your mind to. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a racial issue. Gun violence is not. Gun violence does not know color.
Nope.
Does not know sex. Does not know gender. Whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is this? If our government can find a man in a hole in the middle of a desert, they can stop this. They know how. We have the means to do it.
Yep.
If we can go in and police a foreign country that we know nothing about,
Mm-hmm.
except for our oil rights,
Yep.
or that's my opinion, by the way. There's not factual.
Yeah. Pretty valid opinion.
Is this? If we can go into a foreign land and control it, we should be able to control ourselves. I would think.
I would disagree with you on that.
I would think.
We got a person to the moon, allegedly.
Air quotes.
Air quotes. I seriously.
We could talk about that. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I'm to this day.
1969. I watched it. I was there. I was born 2 days earlier.
You're on the moon too.
I was born 2 days earlier. As a matter of fact, I looked up, from my mom's bosom and said, "I don't know, is this shit real, Mom? Is he really on the moon?"
Seems like green screen to me.
I
want to believe it's true. Well,
we've been back there so many times.
So many times.
Since 1969.
Yeah, we can launch a car into space and somehow make it to Mars, but we can't make it to the moon.
Mars.
Yes, Mars. Mars is Mars, Mississippi, by the way.
That's right. That's right.
Or Mars, Arizona.
Anywho, I digress, right? But truthfully, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why you and I kind of say, okay,
sure.
Follow the real estate, follow the money.
Yep.
Where'd it come from?
Yep.
We've allowed this, and it's not just, listen, folks, it's not just here in Chicago. Chicago always takes the center stage.
Yep.
It's in New York, it's in LA.
Look up Rochester, New York.
It's everywhere.
And look at murder per capita and tell me which one's number one, Chicago or Rochester.
Yeah.
Rochester is number one.
So, the idea is this: where do we become so frustrated that we demand something happen?
Yep.
And now people are, because now it's starting to bleed into downtown Chicago.
Of course.
It's, there was the car chase, like in the Wild West, and guys are literally like a movie bystander said, is like, there were guys hanging out of SUVs, rattling off Uzis at each other, right downtown.
It's disgusting.
Right?
Yep.
Which now you're starting to affect, now it's a mile from your house. Now it's time that we stand up and go, hold on just a second. So what is the breaking point? Where do we finally say, man, this isn't real. We've got to stop this.
Yep. I think it's a problem with Chicago in general, personally, because when I first moved to Chicago, I've lived all across the country, right? And I moved a lot. I opened retail stores across the country. When I first moved to Chicago, and I moved to a place called Old Orchard in Skokie.
Yeah, nice mall.
Yep, nice looking mall. And I lived across the street from the mall. And it was my first apartment in Chicago. And I opened my door and I saw my neighbor. And I said, "Hey, I'm Derek, and nice to meet you." He looked at me and shut the door in my face. So I said, "Oh, well, maybe he's just not a nice person, and I'll talk to my next neighbor." And same thing. They looked at me strange. They spoke a different language and then shut the door. Yeah. And I said, "Okay, so this is strange. Like, I'm a pretty friendly dude. Like, I'm just outgoing. I'm not one to be, judgmental of people at all. And I'm open. I'm open to whatever." And so I went to the mall and worked in the mall. Every customer that walked in was snootier than the last customer that walked in, and had no personality towards it as well, just worried about themselves. Yep. So to answer your question directly, what I think happens, and it happens more every day when I think about it, because things like it hits close to home. When you say, "Hey, well, all that stuff's happening in Chicago, it's not happening in the suburbs." It's slowly creeping its way to the suburbs. And a place like
Metallica
Northbrook
had that song "Creeping Death," right?
Creeping Death. A place like Northbrook,
Yeah.
who's very high class, right? It's a very expensive. The average median income,
very bougie.
Look at that, George. So the upper, I would say, it's $180,000 is the average median income for Northbrook. Just so everyone knows, it's not an inexpensive area. It's very expensive. Taxes are very high. The houses are $1 million houses out there, and there's a gorgeous mall with Louis Vuitton, Tiffany's in there, Neiman Marcus. I mean, the high end stuff.
Oh, it's where I
to
shop.
Feel okay to walk into that place and rob that place is not okay.
Smash and grab, baby. Smash.
There's your answer right there. So it hits closer to home, right? So we literally get closer to home. So Jen had a
So Jen says, "Hey, you want to get wild with a protection and unification topic? What's the one thing that brings together the world as a whole? One common enemy. Fake alien invasion, perhaps, but that's a whole other show, I suppose." Oh yeah, Bear. Rochester, New York. I know it well. As a matter of fact, Rochester, New York is where I learned if you need to get rid of something, what you do is you call in an anonymous tip. Right? You call in an anonymous tip. They go out, they dig the hole for you, and then they say there's nothing there. Then all you got to do is go bury the body there because they'll say nothing was there.
Yep.
Whatever it is that you're looking to get rid of. I'm
Can't
sorry,
like
I didn't
candy
mean
bar.
body.
Candy bar.
Okay, whatever.
Well, body of water.
Body of water.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Yes.
Fake aliens or real aliens. Either way, it's a unifying pew pew jamboree.
Nice.
But yeah, so and of course I learned Tony Soprano. It's always just your helpful tip on the gun show tonight is call in an anonymous tip. They'll dig the hole for you, and then they don't go back and look there because they'll be like,
"We already dug a hole."
Hey, no, we looked there. There was nothing there. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Child Street in downtown Rochester was probably one of the most deadliest street I've ever seen. I lived off of Monroe Avenue, which was about 4 streets away from Child Street. And there's a guy that got stabbed in front of my apartment in Chicago and Rochester. I just said Chicago in Rochester.
Yeah,
he was bleeding out right in front of the building, and everyone was just walking around. The police showed up. They nabbed him. They nabbed the guy that stabbed him because he was still stabbing him. And the altercation was over. I'm sure if the police weren't around the corner like they usually are, he'd probably be dead. And that's probably why Child Street's one of the most murderous streets in America, because it's like a murder zone out there. We know these places exist. I should not know these terms. They should be police terminologies, in my opinion, because at the same time, we should not know the dangerous areas because it should already be being worked on. We should be putting resources in those areas to help support and get rid of crime-ridden areas.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you follow the money, Kent, it's a capitalist country. How can we make $1?
How do we make $1?
How do I make $1,000? How do I make $1 million? How do I do, all that kind of stuff as well? We're losing lives over it.
Yeah. Well, until until we can put the blame where the blame needs to be. Right. And I think, I think back to last week with our caller, Rusty.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, quit trying to
change facts,
change facts or get me to think that guns are good. Right.
Yeah.
Here's the bottom line. These stories have been ripping the headline, but it isn't, for Crips. I don't even know if Crips still exist, right? I'm just saying, hey,
for gang members,
we can't say it's gang violence. We can't say that, hey, some dumbass got a hold of a gun, went into a supermarket in Colorado and just started spraying bullets.
Yep.
However, we lead with this, wild man with assault rifle or assault rifle held by guy, or whatever. They lead with the gun like this. Gun violence, listen, here's the sad truth. The sad truth is 200 some people have died. 1,600 have been shot. That's the sad truth. Yep. And until we can take it away from an inanimate object and put it on to the people, say, you folks are in the head.
Yep.
What is wrong with you people?
Yep.
Right. And listen, you're now arrested, lifetime in prison, not here in Illinois. We'll send you to Guantanamo Bay, or we're going to send you we'll send you to a Mexican prison.
Sure.
Whatever the case may be.
Yep.
Right. But until they're not until they're not scared, or until they're scared of what actually happens, nothing's going to change.
Yep.
And I sit here and I go like this. This dumb some bitch think it's my gun.
Yes, exactly. That's so
Guess
true.
what
though.
I did? I threw the gun. It
Yeah.
ain't me.
No, that's not me. It's the gun. The gun's
Yeah.
missing. Go find the gun. Go talk to the gun. You should interrogate the gun. It's
Go
his fault.
interrogate the gun.
George says he grew up in Buffalo. Go Bills. Bills
it.
Mafia right here, buddy. I love the Bills. I actually have Jim Kelly's Thurman Thomas autograph. My dad actually grew up in Buffalo, and I lived in Buffalo myself. My brother lived in Buffalo.
Great wings.
Buffalo.
Great wings.
It's where the Buffalo wing came from.
I know.
The Anchor Bar, baby. One of the best places ever. If you've ever been to Anchor Bar, then you know what it is. Hey, you haven't been to Anchor Bar, you're missing a whole section of life. Buffalo is a sad city, dude. You've what?
I've never been to Buffalo.
Oh my gosh, it's not.
I've seen some Buffalo.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, reopen Alcatraz. Pete says, keep selling tickets and rotten fruit at the gates.
Perfect. Sounds good.
There you go.
If the laws are stricter around after you've committed the crime, I feel like maybe less people would be inclined to do that. This then pulls into a whole bunch of categories. Is how do you? The whole point is catching the person.
Catching the person.
So we have 1,600 shot. How many convictions? How many arrests have been made? How many even attempts to do anything have been even done at all? Is my number one question. We're just going to continue to blame the gun, the blame game of the guns.
Yeah.
I don't.
Let's go back to the firing squad and put it on TV. Hey, this idiot killed somebody. Guess what? Ready, aim.
Okay, so let's not do that anymore, guys, or else you're going to end up in this firing line. That's next. We have your name.
Oh crap!
Here.
I mean, our good friend in Singapore, Gary. That's they do that public kind of stuff. If you get picked up for selling drugs, it's the death penalty.
Yep.
Not a hey, dude, sorry, go live in prison where you can sell more drugs.
Yep.
It's you are dead.
Yes, we're removing you off of this planet.
You are dead
forcefully.
Get rid of the cancer.
So you probably won't want to sell drugs or have an army to back you so that you don't get caught.
That's correct.
Is really the end of the results on there as well. I just remember a time and day when you just like even stealing a candy bar from a store. Like I would be more scared of my own parents having to face them than the police that would be beating me. My mom would kill me. She would murder me, I'm pretty sure myself, for stealing anything in my life.
Right.
And I haven't, right? So that's the good feeling that I have. It never crosses my mind. It never has. Whether I'm broke or not at the time, it's not like, oh my God, I got to go steal something or I need to go do this. We've allowed people to grow, to raise kids, to have parents that shouldn't be parents doing things that they need to do. And it's so sad because at the end of the day, all that's hurting is the kid who's misguided, who probably would have been a good kid with the right raising, upbringing, morals, understanding, and whether that's church or whether that's any kind of disciplinary or military school. I remember a time and a place when my parents were talking about military school. Because I was teenage years and they were like, well, we're going to put you in military school and you're going to shape up and everything's going to be fine. You're going to do whatever it is. So
last week, again, with Rusty and I, it was a great show. And if you missed last week's show, go check it out because it's amazing, number one. And it's really had me pondering some thoughts. Now, you said last week, Derek, there's how many people that live in America?
331 million.
And there's how many guns were there?
Oh, it was like 342 million or something. It was more guns than people.
So let's just say 400 million.
You're a little stretched, but I'm going to give it to you.
Right.
But it's okay.
Well, right. I'm just
sure.
I'm talking guns.
Oh,
not
yeah,
people.
yeah.
So 400 million guns. My calculator only goes up to 40 million. So let's just go 40 million. Guns.
Sounds great. We're going to down tune it a little.
Let's do.
I'm so excited to see what you're going at right now. So just so you know, his brain over there, you should see it, guys. He's thinking. He's got a nice bead of sweat that is just protruded from the left side of his crest of his head. It's slowly rolling down the side of his face.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out there too. George says, right on. Thanks, dude. And George says also, I've heard kids that are more. Keep going.
Yeah. All right. So so here's the deal. In 2020, there were nearly 20,000 Americans that died from gun violence.
Okay.
Quote unquote. That is a
You say 20,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if there are, let's just say 400 million guns out there, that is a survival rate of, I mean, of 0.000005.
Sure.
And the pandemic, the virus that spread across the world, ended up killing 500,000.
Yeah.
And that was at a survival rate of 98% or something, right?
Yep.
I don't know.
Okay.
And so the interesting thing is, if we take a look at the grand scheme of things,
Yep.
and what causes deaths in America,
Sure.
we spend a lot of time, I think, on inanimate object as a firearm.
Sure.
To make that a bad guy, for something that 20,000 people. Now those are that's gunshots, right? So that could have been you. Your buddy was cleaning.
Sure.
Maybe an accident in the woods,
Sure.
Hunting. Those things happen. These are all included in that, right?
George Cheney.
Yeah. So it's so 20,000, and people will say, well, if there weren't guns, then those 20,000 people would be alive. Maybe not, right? I mean, we could go anyway and say, well, maybe it was a grenade.
We're not on the top 10 at all.
Right.
We're not even near it. We're
Right.
nowhere near it. We're nowhere near the top 10 things that kill people in America.
And so what Rusty said last week was, there's a price
Sure.
for that amendment.
Yeah, of course.
And again, we're a capitalist country.
Yep.
And if people are willing to spend money on guns, I'm going to make guns.
100%.
And if it's legal, sure, I can do that. Yep. Right. Car manufacturers, believe it or not, people, there are acres and acres and acres of rusting cars that never got sold.
Correct.
All over America that are ruining the world, but we don't talk about those millions and millions of cars out there right now. So the thing is, to Jen's earlier, is what's your common enemy? What can keep a division going, because that sells
for sure.
So if you think of it in the grand scheme of things, with how many guns there are, we're doing really, really good.
Yep.
On how many people die from guns.
Yep.
It's a very, very small amount.
Yep.
Very, very small amount.
Do we have profit in villages and towns?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
It's a village and town. It's government. Why do we need profit in that town?
Yeah.
For what? Growth? You should already have that included in there as well. You have money that's sitting. It's overages. I hear overages all the time, and those overages get spent on ridiculous projects. You're not incorrect in what you say with that kind of stuff when it comes down to that type of agenda, I guess, to it.
Narrative.
Mm-hmm. And there's a cost for everything.
Yeah.
I've said this before, and I've told this on the show before with my team. We get a 1-star review, and everyone goes ballistic, and they spend a whole day. How can we make this better? What can we do better? Yeah. And I don't disagree with those conversations. We got to have those conversations, but they shouldn't be 8 hours of our day.
Correct.
They should be 20 minutes of our time to find out what the problem is, what caused the problem. Can we fix it, or is it not fixable? Is it something that's a big problem or a little problem? And then we move on with our life. Heart disease and cancer is the number 1 and number 2 issues besides corona. Take corona out of this completely, that kill Americans in the millions. And we don't talk about it. So we talk about 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
So Ken, if I give you 20,000, you're going to be pretty happy, right?
Hey,
$20,000 right now, if I give you cash right now. Okay. But if I give you a choice and say $1 million versus that 20,000, which one are you going to take?
Is that a trick question?
I mean, it can be if you're,
I listen.
I'm going to take the 20,000 run.
Listen, for 21.6 of that, I'm taking the $1 million.
Yeah, it sounds great. We are focusing on the wrong area.
I'm going to tell Pete we only got 500,000.
Pete, he's being nice. I would have told you there was only 20,000.
Got $20.
Yeah, I got $20, dude. No, I'm just kidding. So you're right, capitalist country. So you need to pay attention to that. That's the bigger part of it at the end of the day. So we're going to leave with that, because that's where we're going to stop at, and we're going to do some digging and some other stuff for you next episode. So
I tell you what, thanks for tuning in tonight. Of course, tomorrow, big day, our biggest day, kicking the day off, right, with Mary Catherine's Power Hour playlist, followed up by The Grounds with Giles and Jones, and then Bridging Civil Tension with Phil Wallace. And then, then we've got the Success Journey podcast. And then at noon, we've got last week's new episode of Dream Home Experts.
Female plumber edition.
Yeah,
really
female
cool. Really awesome.
Plumber crack. You need to tune into that. And then, of course, at 1, the Neighborhood Pulse. At 3, In the Know with Steph and Joe.
Yep.
And it's just been a great time. Thanks for getting caught in the net tonight, folks. Check out the new website at www.216thenet.com and send all of your questions right there on that webpage to your good friend Derek Baer. His email's right there, Derek at thebearfaxonguns.com. Peace.
Thanks, guys. Bye.